This is a little bit of a different kind of video for me. This is a collaboration video that I'm doing with Howie from July with Fitz YouTube channel. Howie approached me about doing a collaboration video a while ago, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Eventually we decided to do something similar to what James Wright from Wood by Wright and Matt Haas from Awesome Wood Things did. They both made Pac-Man themed end grain cutting boards, except that Matt Haas only used power tools and James Wright used hand tools to make his cutting board. I'll provide links for those videos down below. So in the spirit of that collaboration, we decided to do a couple of knife build videos where Howie would use power tools and I would only use hand tools. And we also decided to give away the knives that we make. So stick around to the end of the video and I'll provide a few more details on the giveaway. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and to Howie's channel, and please remember to check out his knife build video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. So this is a shot of the finished blade there. Before I did anything, I did use my power tools to cut a piece off the saw blade to test it. I've read and seen different things online where people say that table saw blades aren't hardened all the way through, or you can't harden them, that only the edge is hardened. So I went ahead and cut a piece off, heated up in my mini forge, non-magnetic, then quenched it in peanut oil, and chucked it into my vise, and took my vice grips there and see if I could snap it, and it did snap off, so it was brittle, which means it can be hardened. I also used a file just to see if it would skate off of it, and as you can see, it worked there pretty well. And here I'm just attaching the template to the saw blade, just tape it on there, and I'm going to use a fine-tipped marker to trace the outline. So next up was time to start cutting. So I went ahead and clamped the table saw blade to my workbench, grabbed my hacksaw, and started hacking away. Took a lot longer than I thought. It was very tempting to grab an angle grinder and just have at it, but stuck with the hacksaw and just kept hacking away, hacking away, hacking away. And here I'm cutting partially through the material, not all the way through, and using my pliers to just snap off the metal there. Made the cutting a little bit easier. So now was time to refine the shape. So I grabbed my file and started filing down the material to the line. I actually redrew the shape of the template back on the blade to give me a reference point. And it's just a matter of filing until I get to the line. And for the rounded bits, use the rounded file. Just work it in the groove and so everything's nice and smooth. So at this point here, I'm getting pretty excited because the blade's looking pretty decent. Shape's not bad. Kind of like it. And here I'm just using a sharper to mark the areas that need to get touched up. The back of the spine and the handle there wasn't quite right, so I had to file it down and use the marker as a reference line. And this is the line, the reference line for what would be the bevels or the plunge line, which didn't end up working out as well as I would have liked. And there I'm marking the holes for the, or marking for the pinholes, make sure everything's centered. And here I'm using the power drill to drill the pinholes. Here I'm used a sharper to mark the edge and take a drill bit that's the same thickness as the material and try to mark a center line. And that's what I'm going to try to make my edge to. With thicker material it'd probably work a lot better. I just ended up eyeballing it. So here I attach the blade to the wood block and put a little guidepost there so I won't go past the plunge line and just file away. So here I'm getting it ready for the heat treat, just sanding it and filing it, draw filing it, trying to get it cleaned up before I actually put it in the fire. You can see the before and after there in a little bit. Here I'm just touching up the edge there, cleaning it up a little bit before I get it ready for heat treat. And a little bit more sanding. So this is the heat treat setup, which is a hair dryer blowing hot air or blowing air onto a wood fire. So I did the heat treat. I was able to get it red hot, and I quenched it, but I wasn't sure that it actually hardened the blade. So I did end up using my actual mini forge that I made that you saw in the beginning of the video to reheat treat the blade to make sure I got a good heat treat on it. And that's what the blade looks like right after heat treat. And that's after sanding off and cleaning off the scale. So now it's time to temper the blade. In my oven I set it to 375. That'll get the blade to 400 degrees. And set it for 1 hour. And this is what the blade looks like right out of the oven after tempering. And you guessed it, more sanding. So now it's time to make the handles or the scales. This is walnut that I'm using here. And this is me not trying to use power tools, and I really struggled with this part. This is really part of the portion of the video that should be called How Not to Cut Handle Scales. This was a big mess, but I did get it done eventually. So I want to make sure that at least one side of the walnut handle was as flat as possible, so I ran it across some sandpaper and used a straight edge to check it to make sure it was flat. So when I glue it up, it'll be nice and snug. used a coping saw to remove some of the excess material to minimize the amount of filing and sanding I would have to do. Once I finished the one side, I traced it onto the other knife scale and repeated the process. Since this portion of the scales won't be accessible once I glue them onto the actual blade, I try to do as much of the finish work as I can to get the shape just right. So I went ahead and taped them together and then used my files and different sandpaper to get it as smooth and nice and clean as possible. And here I just took a piece of sandpaper, 800 grit, and cleaned up the edge a little bit. Now it's time to drill the holes through the handles. Remember to do these one at a time. And remember to index the hole. Put something in the hole so that when you drill the second hole, the blade doesn't slide around on you. That way your holes will all line up once you're done drilling. And these are going to be the pins. They're just 3/16 stainless steel. Here I'm taping off the blade to make sure it's protected from any epoxy squeeze out. And using acetone to wipe everything down, getting dust off of it, any grease. Now it's time for the glue up, so go ahead and slather on the epoxy. Make sure it gets into all the nooks and crannies before clamping it. Once the epoxy is cured, you can go ahead and cut off the excess pin material if you have any. Now it was time to refine the shape of the handle. Started off with using a rasp to rough shape the handles as best I could. And then I used a combination of sandpaper and different files to get to the final finish I was after. Once I was happy with the shape, I used some acetone to wipe everything down before applying the finish. I didn't get any good footage of me applying the finish. I just used Danish tongue oil and followed the instructions on the can. Now it's time to sharpen the blade. I used a block of wood with sandpaper taped to it, 1000 grit and 2000 grit, and the backside of it has a leather strap that has some of that green polishing compound on it that I use as a strap as a final step. So there's a knife all finished up in its glamour shot. I also made another one for Howie. This one has maple handles with brass pins, also from a table saw blade. And I made myself one. This one is mesquite handles with stainless steel pins, also from a table saw blade. And this is all three of them together. To enter the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a comment down below. This giveaway is for US and Canada only. The drawing will be held in 2 weeks. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please take the time to subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And also, if you've never checked out Howie's channel, July with Fitz, I highly suggest that you check it out and subscribe to his channel. Links for all that will be down in the description below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching.